Welcome to the series of quality sessions. I am Tota Krishna Hema, your automotive quality assurance expert. So in this video, we are going to discuss about release audit. So what exactly is it? Like what are the contents of it? Like what all the things like we will ask during the audit. So what is release audit? So it is like, see, the audit which we are going to conduct before releasing it to the customer or before releasing it to the next phase of development. For example, so there are two different kinds of release audits. One is like internal release audit. For example, a development team is releasing the code to the testing team. So that's when like we need to conduct an interim release audit. So for that also we need to have a checklist on the criteria, like what all the things the development team need to be made to release it to the testing team. That is called internal release audit. But however, this in some organizations, like this internal face-to-face release audits will be applicable, but in some organizations, like they will prioritize much more for the client release audits. For product development companies, like they will do this internal release audits or face-to-face release audits. But for the external, if you are developing a product for someone else, like for some of the OEMs, then you need to conduct the external release audit. Okay, just like other release audits, we need to plan for the release audit with respect to the project releases. For example, we will have a project milestone plan or a project release plan with the project manager as an SQA, as a QA of that particular project, or APQP for that particular project. So you need to get the release dates, and on the release date, like you need to plan your audit. That means in sync with the project release plan. Okay, that's how we need to schedule or plan our release auditing. The second thing is prepare audit checklist. Audit checklist, like before going ahead with the audit, like we need to prepare an audit checklist. So the main criteria like which we need to consider in case of release auditing is the acceptance criteria, which will be mentioned in the contracting. That means your SOW or any like if you have any other terminology of calling a client contact. So for example, in yeah, this is generally like the in between the contract, like what exactly it is kind of. And also like we need to cover the aspects like the ASPICE, automotive spice requirements for whatever the accepted level from the customer. Generally it will be level 2 for the product development. So for example, if you are releasing your completed product, this, let us imagine like your entire development cycle is over, and you are going to deliver that particular product to the customer, software product to the customer. Then you need to meet the criteria for SWE 1, SWE 2, SWE 3, SWE 4, SWE 5 and SWE 6 also. That means you need to meet all the software processes criteria to release it to the customer. Similarly, like if you are a functional safety oriented person, then these release audits are termed as the assessments, safety assessments. We can say like before releasing it to the customer, so we do a safety assessment, and as a part of safety assessment, like we need to check our DIA, we need to check our acceptance criteria which we mentioned in the contract, and also we need to check the ISO 26262 clause criteria and with respect to the ISL levels. Okay, and the next thing is we need to look at the release note for details of release. For example, so every release will have a particular release note, like it will have the details like what exactly the release identification number is, or the release version number, and what all the things, what all the artifacts they are releasing, or the list of artifacts they are releasing in that release note. Also, like the known bugs, or the change request which they addressed, or the bugs they fixed, something like that. They will have a list of activities like what they are going to release it to the customer. Generally this release note will be a word file, or the p it's like word file. When they are, means like when the project team is sharing with us. Okay, and while you're releasing it to the customer, you need to make it as a PDF and you need to share it in the email. Some of the projects, like they deliver the release note in the format of email. That's when you need to check the contents of the release note, like all the details like the release date, release version, project name, also like the list of artifacts what they are releasing, what is the version of the code, or what all the bugs they fixed, bug numbers they fixed in that particular release, and what all the known bugs. You can list out the numbers, bug numbers in that, like these are still open kind of, and what are the change requests they have implemented in that particular release. So these all things should be there as a mail content as well. So if that is there, then you can accept it, and then verify associated release artifacts, like the reports they have, for example test reports, test logs, or the configuration logs, approvals. If you have any approvals, like the review approvals or the acceptances from the leads of the particular development team or test team or something like that. Your configuration management details, like what exactly the version is, and the also the accessibility of the team also, and the release mechanism, release media. So release mechanism, release media is something like on what exact tool like you are going to release it to the customer. For example, some customers are very particular about the configuration management tool, like they will share the nowadays, like nowadays they are everything, every person is following this cloud based servers, and they will share the server location, and we need to place that in that particular location sometimes, or sometimes they will ask to keep it in SVN, or any other configuration management tool, and sometimes they will even ask you to share it in the email also, but that is not a safe mechanism. But however, if the client requests, so we need to do the same. So as an SQA or as a QA, like you need to ensure on what is the client requested for, means like what exactly the release mechanism the client expected, and are we releasing as per the client expectation, what is the configuration management details client asked to provide. And see, after releasing it to the customer, so do all the team members need to have the access, something like that, version control, release control, means like access control, or these kind of things, like we need to address on. And the next thing is like we need to find out the difference between the target environment and the actual, means like whatever the tested environment. So that means the client environment versus the tested environment details, like these all things, like and if you want to go a little more into technical details also, that would be fine. So contents of release audit report. So date of the audit, project name or the product name, release version or release identification number, and you will have the issues identified during the audit, like you will have the list of issues. For example, the known bugs are not written there, or for example the bug which is fixed in this particular version is not mentioned in that, or some bug which is not, which is identified during the it's like during the execution phase, and it is of major bug, and there would, they see if something like a client says like you should not release when a major bug is there, then if that is the case, then you should not release it to the customer. So you have identified that there is a major bug which is not fixed, and we are doing a release. So that you can identify it as an issue. And some configuration related things like will be there, like you mentioned something like change this number of so and so, like 01234. You mentioned it in release note, but the actual release version is 01235, something like that. Then that is also an issue. So these are the sample issues which we are going to identify during the audit. And the decision is like, this is SQA decision. It is purely independent. So SQA can say like okay to release, conditional acceptance, like so these are the things like we have identified. If you fix it, you can be able to release. Or if you get the acceptance from the engineering head, you are okay to release, something like that, conditional acceptance or partial acceptance, or not okay. We can say like in some of the companies they say it as go no go decision. So go no go decision is a power to the quality assurance person, like so he will tick on one of the aspects. So this is a report. Always remember, this is a report means like which doesn't which will go as a record. Okay. So did you conduct the release audit? Yes. So what are the issues you have identified? Okay. Did you fix it? Okay. Then see, initially one round may be not okay or no go, and after fixing the issues, if we come back and ask the quality assurance person to conduct an audit, and that's when, like, if he is not able to identify any issue in that, and that's when like he can say this okay to release, that's when you can go for a release. So generally, okay, in practice, like the last day of the release, we will conduct the release audit. But however, like, plan for at least a 1 day or two prior to the release, so that you will have enough time to fix all these identified issues during the audit. So hope you got this concept. If you like this concept, click on the like button. If you want further more automotive videos, subscribe to my channel. Thank you.